Hey everyone, Marsh from Consequence here. I want to make a tier list. Like I said yesterday when I did the first one, more nerfs came, more updates changed, and a lot, might have shifted slightly. And I just want to do one. I'm not going to talk about as much of the classes. I'll try to maybe run through it quickly, anything significant. But we're going to put the things back on the tier, and I am going to lock it in. So first tier, we're going to start at the bottom. And the F tier, we're actually going to rename that to the Outlaw tier. In the Outlaw tier, we're going to have Arms Warrior and Outlaw Rogue. I think these are probably the two weakest specs. Maybe they have like a niche on one or two fights where it's going to outperform some of the other specs they have, but I don't think you're going to see anyone just locking that in consistently. Next tier, we have E. We're going to go Venge, Enhance, Ret, if I can find it, and Survival Hunter. So these specs all have like kind of things missing. Serve does good single and good cleave, but can't do both. Ret's just kind of lower on everything. Enhance got buffed. This is one of the changes, but it's still on the lower end. If you need your Shaman Breath from here, it's fine. And Venge, I could see an argue for bringing it as a tank. It's just probably the weakest tank. And Havoc is kind of mid, so it's probably just better than Venge comparatively. In the D tier, we are going to have Guardian, Balance Druid, and Fire Mage. So again, now you're starting to get to the point where you can make serious arguments about playing certain classes. For example, like if you just need a Druid buff, Guardian Balance is completely fine. Guardian does a ton of damage, so it actually can make an argument for it to be higher. Balance, it does middle damage, does a niche. You might see it here and there, but there's some other Druid specs that do more. It also just got buffed, which is why it's moved. And Fire Mage is on the downward swing down here in D. Next, moving up to C, these are classes that I could easily see like cracking in the Raise to Rules first, or in high-end groups. So you have your Holy Paladin and your Resto Shaman. If you have a really good Holy Paladin or Resto Shaman player, they can take a lot of the benefits out of that class, or they can get a lot out of that class and make it look really, really good, especially for your raid. Next, we have Windwalker. Pretty solid class overall, just kind of middle of the pack. Blood DK, Mass Grip's a thing. It's an okay tank. Frost Mage, it got nerfed. I know it's still Sims high, but Frost is weird, where if you move a lot, your Sim goes down. So it could be used for certain fights, but not super high in it myself. I really have to see it to believe it with that spec. And then at the top of C here, we are going to have BM Hunter and Havoc. They have really good profiles. They just don't do a lot of damage. They're very middle of the pack. But they can definitely be brought, especially like Havoc is probably where your buff's coming from. So those two are going to round out top of C. Next, this is where things get controversial, and I low-key wanted to change things up a little just so it's a little different from yesterday. But at the bottom of B, I'm going to put Disc Priest. We talked about it yesterday, has some mana issues, potentially, and Prez is looking to be better, and they do kind of similar things, but Disc is completely fine, so you might see it in certain scenarios. Next here, we're going to have two rogue specs. We're going to have Sub and Sin. These two specs are pretty solid. They're going to be your buff. They're not insane, so they're going to be here at the bottom of B. And next we are going to have Og. So I moved Og down. The main reason for this is because Frost DK got nerfed. Now, Frost and Og work really well together. So when Frost is doing less, Og will do less. Og can unironically just be like the best class in the raid, and I not know it. But I also think it's gonna fall off so fast when you go down levels. So like if you're like the race first, it could be an absolute god class. Every rank you go down, it's gonna become less and less valuable. So gonna be here and B. I think it's just like a safer option for me. Next we are gonna have Feral. It just got buffed. It's pretty solid. Very good spot for your marked buff. You'll probably see a bunch of guilds trying to run one. Then you have Warrior. Um, Warrior again does really high. It does really high sim. It's really consistent. It's got some negatives with its damage profile being kind of flat, but it's just a really solid class overall. Next here, we are going to have. Actually, let's hop up to the A tier now. So A tier is kind of a lot because I think the difference between like A and B is kind of significant. But within A, there's going to be slightly better specs. I'm going to try to order them. But I'm just going to group all the healers and tanks together. So this is like the thing I know the absolute least about. I'm just going to throw the remaining healers in here. So Resto, Holy, Prez, Mistweaver. I know Mistweaver just got nerfed. It still does a ton of HPS. It's still pretty solid. You're probably going to see a combination of these healers. Maybe one gets dropped for a second of something else. Or maybe like a Holy Paladin comes in and takes the buff. But this is kind of the healer structure. And then for tanks, there's kind of three front runners. You got your Prot Warrior, your Prot Pally, and your Brewmaster. Probably going to see 2 out of 3 of these. Unsure where they're like since Mistweaver just got nerfed, maybe it's more beneficial to bring a Brewmaster. I do not know, but all these 3 tanks are very solid. So next, I'm going to be doing the DPS. So I just want to do these. At the bottom here, I'm going to put Affliction Lock. So Affliction, again, does really good spread cleave. Very solid Warlock spec, and you'll definitely play it on some encounters, especially early on. Then we are going to have the Destro Lock. It just got nerfed. It has a few problems, and the nerf kind of made those worse. It's still a really solid class at certain niches, and it will go up here next to Affliction. Actually, I changed my mind. I'm going to put these down here at the top of B. And I am going to bring up Shadow Priest here at the very bottom of A for DPS. I think Shadow kind of does what these classes do a little better, and this is where I'm going to make the split. So Shadow is going to go here. Next, we are going to have Dev Evoker. It does really good DPS. It does a ton of burst. It does a ton of AoE when it needs to. It is PI dependent, I believe. So depending on your comp, this could matter. But it's a very solid class. Break time spiral, etc. Arcane Mage. Next, lower on the single target sim, so you might see it like shift from 1 to 2 arcane or mages in certain fights. But it does tons of funnel and it's really good on some of these encounters. Next, I'm not going to bore you with the story of Mark's Hunter over the last 24 hours. In short, it's gone up 400k DPS, and its variance can make it really good in the damage amps. So I'm still like kind of thinking it's secret OP, but it could also be turbo crap. So keep that in mind. Could be complete bait. I'm a hunter myself, so you know maybe I'm coping. So next here we are going to have the DK specs, Unholy and Frost. They're both extremely solid. AMZ is pretty good. And they're like the best melee. And what you saw in the last raid is the best melee. You just kept bringing more of them. So that might be a similar case. Next, we are going to have Demo. Demo is probably the best Warlock spec. It's decently mobile. It does a lot of cleave around its target. So it is going to probably be the best spec. And last, I am adding a tier here. Alright, so pending Tuesday nerf is Ellie Shaman. They magically found hundreds of thousands of more damage and sim 300 to 400k higher than everyone else currently. Maybe you stack them, maybe you don't. We haven't stacked Ellie Shamans since like, I don't know what that raid was. It was a Unat raid. So, you know, Maybe it's godly, maybe it'll get nerfed, but I'm going to have it here at the top. It is just the complete outlier. For the Race to World First comp, since this is fun as well, let me see. So, again, those tank situation, I could easily see a Brewmaster and you drop the Mistweaver. Um, but I'm just going to stick with my guns for now. Put Prot Warrior, and I'm going to put Prot Paladin. If you do break the Brewmaster, a Fury Warrior will make it, but currently I am just going to be putting in 3 DKs. One of them might be Unholy. And Unholy is kind of PI dependent as well, so maybe I'm going to put Frost. Again, it might be the best melee, and you do need like a certain amount of melee to do stuff. So I don't know how much has changed, but like literally, you could put in anything you want here as like a substitute, and it's probably like no difference unless you're like min-maxing everything like crazy. But Frost we'll put here. Next, we are going to fill out some raid buffs. So Havoc, Rogue can be sub or assassination, or sub or assassination. And then we are, I think that's it for melee. So that's 5 melee. So maybe you see one more. But we will continue. So I'm going to put Feral here. Again, Feral, I think, like, this group here is like, hey, you might be able to take this. Feral, if you don't, like, have a Resto, Druid, or you want your buff from that, that's completely fine. So this is, like, kind of fringe getting in. Next here, we are going to put in 2 Warlocks. Again, they're still really good, and they can swap between 3 specs that are really good and good at doing different things, but they're not as insane as they used to be. So I think like this is the spec is the most dangerous of being reduced, how strong they are. And now it's getting a little interesting. So let's just put in our healers. We kind of talked about it before. But we have the Resto Druid, we have the Mistweaver, we have the Holy Priest, and we have the Preservation Evoker, if I can find it. And then here, in this group 3, we can put in 2 Ellie Shamans, which is crazy to say. It could be 3. But part of me thinks it's getting nerfed last second, and the other part of me feels like Ellie just hasn't been good at, like, it just has, I don't know. It's just, maybe it's just I'm biased because it hasn't been good in so long. I could easily see it be this. I'm going to be dead honest. But we're going to leave it as 2 to be a little conservative. And now here, you're going to need a mage. And you are most likely going to bring a dev or 2. It really depends on your PI situation. And then you're kind of going to have 3 spots here that are kind of open to whatever you want. And this is where things get interesting. Oh, sorry, you need a hunter buff, marks. So you have 2 spots here that are very interesting. I could easily see it being double dev. I could also see it being double aug. Because Frost and aug still synergize, and Frost still might be the best. Maybe in theory this sims the most. But again, in most guilds, you'll probably be doing devs. If you have 2 devs in, your PI situation, you have to keep that in mind. You can throw in a Shadow Priest. Or, if we're talking Race the World First, maybe you do bring that 3rd Ellie and you add in another mage. It could be something like this. Or 2 Marks Hunters. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move these classes in over here as like, hey, these are something you could probably bring. It's probably a combination of these 3 in here. But who knows? Maybe we'll be surprised. Actually, I totally need to put aug here too. So maybe it'll be a surprise. But that is everything that I have. Good luck in the tier. And once Ellie gets nerfed at, noon tomorrow, this tier list will be irrelevant. But good luck, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.